Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. Before we get into Monday Night Raw from May the 15th, 2023, we got some stories that might be of interest to you. Medusa and her comments about Trish Stratus, Bob Orton's unfortunate comments about Randy Orton, and Becky Lynch's unfortunate comments about celebrities. So let's get into this in order. First, Medusa. She made some comments on the Twitter machine about your girl, Trish Stratus. Now, what most people don't tell you is this actually started on May 11th. Shortly after Trish Stratus started this new character, the Thank You Trish character, Medusa basically started hating on Twitter. She tweeted out on May 11th, rumor has it that Trish Stratus is claiming that she's responsible for the evolution of women's wrestling. Maybe she needs me to educate her. Then her next tweet about Trish Stratus said this, and this was actually in the notes pad. She says, quote, Trish has set the women back and turned them into a sideshow after all the work I did to get the women respected and legitimize them as the superstars they are. Do you really think I literally threw that title in the trash without a plan of longevity and meaning? Trish brought in the blueprint that WWE used for decades that had to be undone by the women who were inspired by men and the women that came before her. Trish made room for the Bella Twins and others, but I built a foundation for the 4 horsewomen. So she's basically angling for a match with Trish Stratus. That's essentially what's going on here. She's kind of working. All right. I think a lot of people just took it personally and they don't understand that she's working here. You know, maybe Trish don't know she's working. But Medusa is definitely working. Medusa is 60 years old, for the record. She technically is older than the other woman who was never defeated for the WWE Women's Championship, that being Rockin' Robin, the sister of Jake the Snake Roberts, who was WWF Women's Champion in 1987 until the title was deactivated in 1990. So she was champion for 2 years, unbeaten. So Alundra Blaze, who was the champion until the title was deactivated again, technically wasn't beaten for the champion, but she technically never beat the champion for the title in the first place. Poor Robin is left out of all of this nonsense. She had to wrestle Sherry throughout the house show loop in the 80s. Then the title was just deactivated out of nowhere because there wasn't enough women. And then I think 3 years later, after the title was deactivated, Alundra Blaze shows up. And then the title was around for a year and some change, and then Vince was getting broke because business wasn't doing very well, and he basically just cut the women's division. So, of course, the title would then be brought back later on. I think that's when, I want to say, Jacqueline won the title, or Ivory, or somebody like that. Anyway, that women's title being deactivated is a real thing. Now, a lot of people are very, very angry at Medusa for her comments. They think that she's a hater, yada, yada, yada. But I feel like she's working. Again, to me, some people don't know a work when they see one. Medusa's not coming out of nowhere to attack Trish Stratus for no reason because some stuff Trish Stratus said on TV. So I can tell you, if she's responding on Twitter or something like that, she's angling for a match. And she's actually been training and all this kind of stuff. And she's been trying to get a match for a while now. Because Medusa, I think she said when she first signed to the Hall of Fame that she wanted to lose the title in the ring. That was one of the things that she mentioned, is that she actually wants to have one more match, sort of a retirement match, so that she can lose the belt in the ring. And that's entirely, I think, what we're looking at here, is that this 60-year-old, well, I don't think she's a grandma, because I don't think she had any kids. But this 60-year-old lady is angling for one big payday, you know, who knows when, who knows where, in which she can actually pass the torch, like physically pass the torch in the ring. And I'm not looking at it as she's hating on Trish. She's trying to hold Trish back. I think that this is just an easy attack because there's a lot of diva stans out there. And those are the people who are really mad, by the way, are all of the diva stans. And they are very protective of their era of women's wrestling with, you know, Maurice and Caitlyn and all them, Candice Michelle and everything. And look, if that's your thing, that's your thing. I'm not that upset about it, but just don't get obsessive. But I believe that Medusa is working. And if I thought she was for real, then I would have a different reaction. But since I looked at it and was like, yeah, this feels like a work, and Medusa has been, again, angling for one more match. She's no different than Goldberg and a couple of the other people out there who kind of wants to say a goodbye on their own terms. And she doesn't really want her legacy to be that she threw the belt in the trash, you know? She wants to actually be able to lose it in the ring. And I think she should get that opportunity. I don't think the match should be like 40 minutes or anything like that. But a lot of people took everything that she said personally, and I really could have done a smart tears on this and probably would have had fun with it. But I never got around to it because I was kind of busy. So we're just going to have to talk about it here. And if nothing comes of this, then maybe we'll go into it that way. But to me, I'm very interested in where this is going to lead, because typically in wrestling, unless you're friendly with somebody, you don't start working on them on Twitter and stuff like that without them knowing. So my bet is that at least Trish might actually play into this or something like that. And who knows what might come of it. It might lead to the rebranding of the women's championships, which I'm hoping, because it definitely needs it. You know, these women's titles definitely need to be rebranded. So, and since I think this is a work, I'm going to play the wait and see game on it, and we'll see what comes out of it. Okay, something that wasn't a work, Becky Lynch and her comments about celebrities. She says, on my Love Letter to Wrestling podcast, Look, everybody don't need to have a podcast, all right? I'm becoming more and more certain that not everybody's voice needs to be heard. All right, I'm already just something tells me this podcast is not worth a damn. But they got Becky Lynch on it, so hey, who knows? She says, quote, I want to see the people that love this, that work for this, that are there year round, making the towns, wrestling 4 days a week, and not being home to see their family, not being able to take vacations because this is a 52-week-a-year gig. I want them to get more, and I want them to wrestle on WrestleMania. That's what I want. I don't care about the celebrities. Now, this is a very pro statement. She's standing up for the boys in the back, and the girls too, of course, who often get bumped for the celebrities and everything. And yeah, we understand. This is a conversation that we've been having for, 30 years in WWE when it comes to celebrities getting in the ring, celebrities taking up TV time, celebrities chewing the scenery. It's all about the celebrities and the pomp and the circumstance, or as Vince Russo called it, the pyro and ballyhoo. All of that is what gets mainstream attention on your product, so that people who do work there 52 weeks a year can get more eyeballs to see them and, hopefully catch somebody's attention and become somebody's favorite wrestler. The celebrities are an integral part in the WWE product. It's just, you can't turn away from it. It just is what it is. And to have wrestlers still arguing this point today in the year of our Lord 2023 is pretty ridiculous. Now, same time, Becky Lynch is in the middle of a feud with a part-timer, that being Trish Stratus, who was literally not really part-time, because the last match she had was 3 years ago or 2 years ago or something. How long ago was that match she had with? Oh, well, I shouldn't say that because she wrestled on Raw recently. She wrestled at WrestleMania too. But before that, before she came back for this storyline here, was her match with Charlotte, which was at SummerSlam, 2021 or 2022 or something like that. So technically, Becky Lynch is already in a feud with a part-timer. So you could take this as being part of the work, but I think this might be a little bit of a gray area where this really is how she feels. And it also just happens to fit something that she would say in character right now. But wrestlers who don't just seem to get what celebrities bring to the table, with fans that don't seem to get what celebrities bring to the table, they clearly have oatmeal between their ears. Because this is a conversation we've had a bunch of times by now. Sometimes these wrestling fans are so low IQ, you end up having these conversations in circles. So I'm going to abbreviate this by just saying WWE uses celebrities. They always use celebrities. The idea that they're going to stop because the boys are being bumped or somebody else deserves that payday or how dare they come in and make more money than us. This is before WrestleMania 1 we've been doing with this. You know, the Mr. T and the Cyndi Lauper, we've been down this road already. It's over. WWE is going to use celebrities. They're going to use part-timers, which is a new thing that they're starting to do. And by new, I mean within the last 10 years, they started doing part-timers. So it is what it is. The part-timers exist for the same reason celebrities exist, to increase eyeballs on the product, especially at dead times like post-WrestleMania right now, where there's not a lot of people watching the shows, but there's at least somebody on the show that they remember that might be able to get their attention. They may actually help the product going forward. So people need to get that through their thick brains. Now, the sad story. Bill Apter had a conversation with Cowboy Bob Orton, who made this comment about his son Randy. He's training. We'll see what happens. I don't know if he feels like going back, or when it feels like he's ready to go back, I think he might. Then again, he's pretty well taken care of. I don't think he needs to. I think the doctors have told him not to. Randy will do what Randy's going to do. So that was a very ineloquent way of saying that the doctors have probably suggested that Randy Orton's in-ring days should be over. Now, that being said, how many times have wrestlers been told to retire and they just don't? You got a wrestler wrestling in bullshit triple threat matches who had a career-ending injury. You know, Edge should have retired before his actual retirement, before he was forced into retirement in 2012. He should have retired before then. Most wrestlers who have serious neck injuries probably shouldn't come back. Wrestlers who have serious back injuries probably shouldn't come back, but they do. Now, do I believe that Randy is going to come back? I do believe that he's going to come back probably on a part-time schedule, and he's probably going to come back to probably say his farewells as a full-timer, and that's going to be it. I mean, Randy Orton's, 42, 43 maybe? He's been out already a year now. He has nothing left to prove. There's nothing more for him to do, you know, but a sort of string of farewell matches could very well be useful. You know, one more match for Roman, especially since he never got to have the match with the Tribal Chief version of Roman Reigns. A match with Brock. I don't know how's that going to do for his back, but, you know, a match with Brock. And of course, the match everybody wants, the match between him and Cody. I think we need to at least get 2 of those 3. All right. If he can only get 1 more left, then Cody should be the guy that gets it, as they have such a history with not only the legacy stuff, but also when, you know, the Rhodes family corporation stuff that they was doing in, 2013, I think it was. So there's a lot of stuff going on. And I definitely think that if Randy Orton's going to hang it up, we need to get 1 more match out of him. If it's possible to get 1 more match, Cody should get the match. If that means Cody doesn't win the title at WrestleMania, but instead wrestles Randy Orton, that's fine. But I think we definitely got to get that Randy Orton-Cody match and get that story told, and then Randy Orton can say goodbye off into the sunset. But I was mentally prepared for Randy not coming back. Like, when I heard that he had a serious back injury, I said, well, that about does it. Because back injuries and neck injuries, c'est la vie. Those are 2 things that is very difficult to come back from that. So we'll see, of course. Wrestlers always have these career-threatening injuries, and then they power through it after some time off. And those injuries linger for a little while. But Randy said he wanted to wrestle till he was 45. He got like 2 or 3 more years left in that in that suggestion. I think that he should take as much time off as he needs, and then maybe work 1 or 2 matches a year go do the part-time schedule until he can't even do that anymore. He's very young, and I don't think that this is going to be the end. But this may be the end of Randy Orton doing all the traveling to the house shows, all the traveling to various events. I think he's going to have to get benched eventually and come off the bench like a 6-man, much like Brock, much like Undertaker. And I think he's earned that right. I think he's earned a part-time schedule. And I do think that when the guy hits 40, we should start transitioning him over to a part-time schedule and not working the guys on the house shows every week. By that point, especially if you've been in WWE for a long time, you should have a nice little nest egg where you don't need to work Raw and SmackDown and the pay-per-views and everything in order to make a decent living. You should be able to make some pretty good money off the, video games and, basically your regular paycheck working every once in a while. So I don't think Randy Orton needs to come back and try to work a full schedule and work it on Raw and all this kind of stuff. But I do think if he wants to come back, if he's going to try to force that comeback and make that comeback happen, it definitely should be as a part-timer where he works 1 or 2 matches a year. He works a Saudi show, he works a WrestleMania, call it a day. And I think that's the best way we do things going forward. Sort of popped up out of nowhere, but this is sort of the fourth note. John Cena, how ironic. The day after Bob Orton talks about Randy pretty much having to hang it up, Cena essentially admits that he can't go. He can't go anymore. So Cena says on Busted Open Radio, I wish I was still there in WWE every day. My body can't do it anymore, and I don't want to give the consumer bad product. Later, he says that what he did at WrestleMania was pretty much the best that he could do right now. Man, this was a stunning look. I am impressed with John Cena's maturity and how he's not trying to hold on too long. So I am very impressed with how aware he is at, I guess you could say, his diminished capacity, and that he can't do this full time. And he says, look, every here and there, that's fine. But every day on the road, can't do it anymore. And, I'm thinking that that's probably where Randy is right now too. Like they're probably just at that point where enough's enough. And plus, when it comes to John, he's been in and out of the company so long now. He's been in and out of the company for about 4 or 5 years. So his body's not even used to that kind of stuff anymore. He's got to, at some point, I don't want to say move on, because you never really move on, but he's got to accept his limitations. It's almost like accepting death. I know it's kind of morbid, but sometimes let's be less morbid. It's like accepting old age. You're not as fast as you used to be. Your mind isn't as sharp as it used to be. Your metabolism isn't what it used to be. You're gaining weight faster. You got to cut more things out of your diet as you get older. Those sorts of things. And Cena's just coming up with I got to cut wrestling out of my diet. So, and I don't think it's necessarily just Hollywood says, look, you got to limit this wrestling stuff. I think that's part of it too. But I think a lot of it is just, he's been doing this for 20 years. The body's beat up. The body's, got a capacity. There's only so much of that stuff you can take. And if he's not being forced into retirement through injury, but essentially walking away under his own power, then that's a win for him. There's a lot of guys who had their last several years taken away from them. Where, Randy might be that guy. Who knows? But John is still pretty much in good shape. I don't think he got injured recently. So he's going to end up having to walk away in pretty good shape, financially and physically. And doesn't want to go out there and put on mid matches just to be on TV. And I can appreciate that, So, but the idea, and this is a pretty crazy thought, that within the next 2 years, Randy Orton, John Cena, and Edge will probably be retired. Because Edge said this is his last year. If Randy Orton comes back, it won't be back as full-timer. And Cena already isn't a full-timer anymore. And neither is Brock. And neither is Roman. So who knows how many of these guys are really going to be around in 5 years? Probably none of them. You're definitely looking at a WWE for a certain generation of the audience. Your entire childhood is about to disappear. That's how you know when you're old. And sometimes when I used to go back and watch old wrestling, and I go back and I watch a show and Macho Man's not there, Hogan's not there, Warrior's not there. I truly didn't feel old until there was no Undertaker, because he had always been there. But, there's no Shawn, there's no Undertaker. You're like, man, I'm up there in age, bruh. And for a lot of young people now, you're getting up there. It's your turn to feel old. So when Cena's gone, Orton's gone, Edge is gone, you're pretty much holding on to who? Hardys in AEW? The Hardys are from the mid-90s, and they're going to be gone soon. So you're looking at the next 5 years, some of these guys will be in their late 40s, some of them will be 50, and they won't be able to do this anymore. And I think this realization is really starting to climb into the brain of some of these young wrestling fans. And it's interesting watching them come to grips with it. But I appreciate that John Cena has reached his capacity. He realizes that he's good or great in small doses. Eventually, he's going to learn that, probably tag matches for the most part, a singles match, one-off here and there. And so I enjoy his humility, and I like the maturity of the statements that he made. Ooh, okay, so now we got to talk about this absolutely brutal episode of Monday Night Raw. It was boring. What a boring show. Jesus Christ. This show boring as hell. So, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn come out there. To cut this short, it's time to put a check on Roman. Roman has gone unchecked for too long. They want revenge. And for Roman, it's never enough. It's not enough to be the Universal Champion. He wanted to be WWE Champion too. Now it's not enough to be champion for 1,000 days. He wants to be a tag team champion too. But these titles he cannot have. Kevin Owens is visibly disturbed by Sami Zayn's obsession with Roman Reigns and the Bloodline. He is visibly getting aggravated about it. I think this is a subtle piece of storytelling that people are missing, is how agitated Kevin Owens is at Sami Zayn's obsession with the Bloodline. Anyway, Judgment Day comes out there. Kevin Owens is very quick to say that he wants to fight them. Sami Zayn is like, wait a minute, we don't even know if they want to fight or not, but they do. Then they decided that they want the next shot at the tag team titles after Roman and Solo. Then a fight breaks out. Sami Zayn ends up chasing off Judgment Day with steel chairs. That wouldn't be it, though. They spent the rest of the night, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, pronouns, pal, making enemies, essentially pissing people off all night. When they were confronted by Gunther, who didn't appreciate the disrespect that Imperium was shown last week, Kevin Owens again stepped up and wanted to fight them, challenged all three of them to a 6-man tag next week, to which Imperium accepted. This ties into Judgment Day. So Xavier Woods had an absolutely long, oh my God, this match made me want to pull my eyelids off. Xavier Woods versus Dominic Mysterio. This match felt like it was an Iron Man match. It was so long. Jesus. It probably wasn't even 10 minutes, but it felt like it was 40. It just, oof. So, anyway, Xavier Woods loses to Dominic Mysterio. So, of course, the 6-man tag is set up after this. But you get the picture of what they was trying to do here with the 6-man tag. So, Gunther then shakes hands with Paul Heyman backstage as Heyman has a gigantic visitor tag on his cell phone. Just in case you didn't know, he is a visitor to Monday Night Raw. He's a guest. I will call him a special guest personally, but he's a guest of Monday Night Raw. This leads to the main event, which was entirely too long. Oh my God. With so many run-ins and so many moving pieces. It was ridiculous. First, Dominic and Rhea come out. They get ejected. Then they get attacked by Xavier Woods, which of course sets up who the third man will be in their 6-man tag next week. That being said, he came out after Judgment Day got ejected. Once Judgment Day was ejected, Imperium came out with Paul Heyman watching from the ring apron. So Heyman is out there, Imperium's out there. Imperium, they distract Kevin Owens. Then they actually actively interfere in the match, which leads to the coup de grace, so that Finn Balor and Damian Priest actually win the match. The thing that aggravated me about this is all of the run-ins, which I know the story that they're trying to tell. We're going to get to that in a moment. And the match just was so long for low stakes and no stakes. This match was entirely too long for a non-title match with nothing to be gained from it. It wasn't like, hey, if they win, then something special happens. They pretty much had already set up that they were top contenders for the tag team titles. All right. So Imperium was all over this show. And that was good because we got to see what they were doing throughout the night. That was a positive. We'll talk about Imperium momentarily, but it seems that Gunther, they're putting him in here, mixing him up. Matter of fact, let's talk about it right now. Gunther interfered in the Battle Royal earlier in the night by kind of jostling around with Matt Riddle. Imperium got involved with that, and they caused him to lose. So they set that up. Obviously, he's going to be wrestling at Night of Champions in a match that is as an absolute joke. And then he was mixed up with the main event guys. So he's somehow got one foot in the mid card, one foot near the main event. I guess that's fine. I guess. They're really kind of positioning Gunther to be the big bad of Monday Night Raw. I guess that's where they're going with this, that he's going to be sort of the top heel with Roman not being on Raw. He needs a top heel. So I'm guessing that's going to be Gunther, which is the right thing. He's a guy who should be showcased to the maximum. That being said, he diminishes the moment they have a world heavyweight champion, because then it's a guy on the roster has a higher level title than he does. And that kind of defeats the point of him being the big bad on the roster. But for now, he's seemingly the big bad on the roster who's going to be feuding with several different people and having a one-off match at Night of Champions. Now, in terms of Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens' agitation at Sami Zayn has been apparent for the last couple of weeks. Every time he gets caught talking to Jey Uso or talking about Jey Uso, you can see Kevin Owens just is flustered. He just can't understand why this is continuing. Sami Zayn and his obsession with the bloodline is causing agitation to Kevin Owens. And it's leading to Kevin Owens making very rash decisions that is actually detrimental to the team. Such as him picking a fight with Imperium last week, him also picking a fight with Judgment Day this week, and of course they already had the fight with the bloodline already prepared. So you just have this net of enemies that they've created for Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, which is good. That's a good idea. You have a lot of potential contenders here. They're blowing through these matches, by the way, because they've already fought Imperium last week, and they already fought Judgment Day this week. So it's like they have these matches and these angles that they've set up, but they're blowing off the matches already too. So, I mean, I don't know what you can do, but let's continue. Kevin Owens is starting these fights. It's his fault that a lot of these fights are happening. And while they win some, they win more than they lose. They're starting to get overwhelmed. And now they got a little bit of help with Xavier Woods, who is sort of unofficial at this point, but you could tell that he's just going to be shoved in this position And you could definitely think of 15 people better than Xavier Woods who probably deserve that spot. But they're looking for another sort of generic babyface that they can put with Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, and he fits the bill. They did this with Riddle already. They just removed him from the equation and replaced him with Xavier Woods. But Woods he's going nowhere fast. You could have easily picked somebody else. Somebody who, especially if they're going to be, the Intercontinental Championship is going to be involved. He definitely could have picked somebody else. And it seems like Riddle is going to be involved with Imperium too. So it seemed like it was a perfect time to just keep that trio going, the Riddle, Owens, Zayn team, especially if you're going to eventually loop around to Riddle and Gunther. That should have stayed in place. Then, you don't really need Xavier Woods at that point. Maybe they'll swap him out where Xavier Woods will get taken out and Matt Riddle will take his place. But they're creating a nice little rogues gallery here for Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. They're the top baby faces on Raw, apparently, next to Cody. Cody is number 1. These guys are probably 2 and 3. That's fine. This is building up, I think, a long-term heel turn for Kevin Owens, where eventually he's going to snap because Sami Zayn has been obsessed with the bloodline, because he wants to be done with the bloodline, and Sami Zayn just won't let it go. I think eventually he will snap, and he's going to beat up Sami Zayn or just leave Sami Zayn behind and move on with his career, as this is the only time he can ever move on is if he, leaves Sami Zayn's side. But I do think that it's a very underrated part of the story that they've put in there, that Kevin Owens is getting real agitated at Sami Zayn. All right, next, Shinsuke Nakamura defeats The Miz. Well, I can tell you were surprised by hearing about that, right? All right, so Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville are backstage bitching, something about not having yellow M&Ms or something. Oh, I'm sorry. They didn't get a tag team championship match, which they felt like they earned. Well, they got the petition signed last week. And Liv Morgan apparently got injured on SmackDown, and therefore she's not medically cleared. A smart person named Sonya Deville said, well, if the champions is injured, that means forfeit. We are the champions. Adam Pearce, dumb man, said, no, we're not doing that. And I'm like, huh? Okay. I didn't know it was his discretion to make this decision. I don't even know what his job title is. What is Adam Pearce's job title? What exactly would you think that you do here, sir? Are you the director of operations? What are you? What are you doing? Anyway, Raquel Rodriguez ended up challenging Chelsea Green to a singles match. You know how that goes. Chelsea Green loses. After the match, Raquel is happy and she's smiling, and then she gets attacked by Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler, who says that she should be defending her championships and that until they get a title shot, they're going to beat her up every single week. And got some good heat, I can tell you that. It was kind of weird, though, that Raquel, as big and strong as she is, she was being held up by her hair by Ronda Rousey. She wasn't, immobilized at all, like an arm bar or something. That would have, it was done in a very theatrical way so you could see Raquel's face. That was the whole point of this thing. You pull her hair back so you could see her face. But we just went through this whole thing about Raquel being super big and strong, and now she's being basically held by her hair. It's like, why didn't she just, you know why. It's a movie at this point, you just accept that there's things that you can't change in this situation. Whatever. They beat up Raquel Rodriguez. So you already know Ronda Rousey about to beat up Liv Morgan and take another one of her titles. So I'm pretty sure the Liv fans are about to have absolute brain mush and pitch a bitch, but who cares at this point? Nobody cares about any of these people at this point. Poor Raquel, she's stuck in this situation. It's the best she can do until they decide that she's a competent singles competitor. And now she's just stuck with Shayna and Ronda. And I forgot Ronda Rousey was even a wrestler at this point, bro. I'm not even gonna hold you up. She ain't been on TV in so long, I forgot she was even there. But this is a smart move, going with Ronda and Shayna as sort of the next contenders. I would assume Chelsea and Sonya are still going to get their title shot, I would assume. But they're just going to lose, so it's not that big of a deal. But the women's tag team titles will not be defended at Night of Champions because Liv will probably not be ready yet. Unless, she will be and I'm just wrong, which is entirely possible. It's entirely possible. That being said, the other women's titles don't seem to be getting defended at Night of Champions at all. I guess the Asuka match, Asuka Bianca Belair match might actually happen, but Rhea Ripley doesn't have an opponent at all. They haven't even whispered about an opponent for Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley is too busy arguing and fighting men, because that's what they're doing now, is having her bully men. She's chasing men around, body slamming them, beating them up. It's like, okay, what is going on here? Is she like the Intercontinental champion of the world? Like, why isn't she wrestling fucking women? Why, like all of her highlights so far is her wrestling or feuding with or staring down men. Like, come on, man. Let's stop this. Unless she's going to actually start wrestling, guys, stop doing this. And if she's going to start wrestling, guys, we might as well just go ahead and pull the plug on the women's division because we don't need it. All right, let's move on. They did a series of videotape packages and a backstage interview with Seth Rollins, and this was the best thing on the show. This was fantastic. The sit down with Seth Rollins was really good. We got a video package that goes through his history from when he was in NXT to, essentially now. Corey Graves asked him about this, being the first NXT champion. And then the theme for the interviews is struck immediately. NXT was a symbol of change. That there was a need for change, and I had the vision. He is the vision for change. So under each scenario that they mentioned, for instance, the Shield, these were three guys who wanted change, and they wanted change now. They didn't want to wait anymore. Then when it comes to the buy-in, where he turns on the Shield and destroys them, it was about him having the vision of ultimate success, and he could only do it by taking risks, and you can only do it pretty much on your own. So that was excellent. That was part one. Part two was about this new incarnation of Seth Rollins, which is, Seth freaking Rollins, which nobody seems to understand. And to be quite honest, it doesn't make much sense in terms of character work. But the description that they gave in this sit down interview is actually pretty good, because Seth Rollins is saying, look, for the first time, I'm not driving the change. I'm hands off the wheel. This is all the audience. This is what they're doing. They're the ones singing the song. I'm reacting to what they're doing. And basically accepting that the audience has accepted and embraced him and embraced his vision. And basically he's being anointed by the audience. That's what they're saying here. But, to go back to how things used to be on this channel, when we talked about, especially during the pandemic, we talked a lot about archetypes and about Seth Rollins and the cult leader gimmick that he was doing. One of the things is he wanted people to sort of buy into his vision. It's not just enough to have a vision. You have to have people believe in it. Okay, so when he had Buddy Murphy and Austin Theory there with and AOP, he had believers, guys who shared his vision of Monday Night Raw, or whatever. And that was him trying to force the change. If you keep with this theme, he was trying to force people to accept him as their, I would say, Lord and Savior. But he was trying to force his way upon them. Now he realized that the way of true change is to present something and then let people gravitate to it organically. Let people gravitate to it naturally. And in doing so, not only are they validating the sort of cult character that they created for Seth Rollins about 3 or 4 years ago, but they're also putting him in direct competition with Roman Reigns, as Roman is always seen as the guy who's forcing. The company is forcing Roman on you, constantly forcing when it comes to Roman. But when it comes to Seth, it's organic. It's you. You're the one singing my song. You're the one moving me along. You're the one who made me what I am right now. And the final question was, why do we need a new world champion? And Seth says that the people at the top are too conservative. They're not willing to take any risks. They're all about themselves. They're not about helping others or moving the business forward. And now it's time for things to change again. We need new change, So we got this Seth Rollins character now. That feels like he's being juxtaposed to Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is all about, force. He forces you to acknowledge him. He's forcing you. Also, the company forces Roman on you. And with Seth Rollins, they're trying to say, all these years, Seth Rollins has been trying to force you to love him. When he was the man's man and, the architect and the Monday Night Messiah and all this kind of stuff, he was trying to force you to love him and accept him. But now you're doing it on your own, which is even better. And this nice little juxtaposition with him and Roman, which is all about Roman's forcing you and the iron fist. This is nice. And it also says a lot about how the company has for a long time shoved Seth Rollins down people's throats. Because it was both Seth and Roman, really, that the company was like, oh, you don't want this, then take this. And then you don't want this, take this. You don't want this, take this. And that's why you got to go back and forth between the two of them. But now, Roman, people are gravitating more towards him due to what he's doing with the bloodline. And that's really working out for him. It's pretty organic. It's still heavily pushed by the company and in some ways over pushed by the company. Meanwhile, Seth Rollins was getting more over sort of organically as people found that song to be very catchy and people love his performances and everything, even though they didn't really understand the gimmick and how the character was dressing and why the character was doing all the things that he was doing. But I've always said that this current character was an extension of the architect, the Monday Night Messiah. It's all the same archetype, He's always been a magician. He's always been sort of the cult leader, the man who, the technician, the guy who knows, the guy who's got the vision, who's going to lay out the blueprint, lay out the plan, and, in some ways an observer, always sort of been that role in the company. And this is more of the same, where he realizes, again, his vision is that people are starting to gravitate more to him this way, and he can influence more this way than he could in previous ways. And since that's what he, the character wants to do, that works. Where is the character, what is the character's motivations? Where's the character taking you? That's still up in question, because when somebody says, I have a vision of what? You naturally have an answer, a destination, an endpoint. But with, Seth Rollins, there is no endpoint, so you're just kind of caught up in it's something different than Roman Reigns right now. And basically that's his position, is that in the company, there needs to be something different from Roman Reigns. So I really love the sit down interview. It finishes up next week. That ought to be a blast. Ought to have a lot of fun with that. All right. So Gunther, he had an interesting evening, as we talked about him earlier in terms of his interactions with Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, but he was actually formally introduced by Ludwig Kaiser. And instead of getting him something dignified to stand on, like a stool or standing on the metal stairs or something like that, they had Gunther stand on the announce table. so he looks like a goof. And he was standing on top of the announce table. Then he says that he's going to continue his mission to be the greatest Intercontinental Champion. And he is disappointed that no man has stepped up to earn his respect, and to challenge him for his prestigious championship. But this battle royal will provide him with a suitable opponent. I love the way they present this Gunther's character right now. Like, he wants to defend the title. He wants the matches to be honorable and for him to respect his opponents and all this sort of stuff. But he's still like a liar. Like, he's willing to cheat, which is simple storytelling. Storytelling does not have to be that hard. He comes across like everything you want in a babyface. Hey, I want to defend I'm a fighting champion. I want to defend my title. I want to fight against the best. Bring your best. And then somebody steps up and he cheats. And he, or whatever. Because why not? Fuck these rules. I just want to win, ultimately. I don't want to be the best. I just want to win. So, we have the Intercontinental Championship Battle Royal, which I was not prepared for. Because I mean, this was probably the least promoted Battle Royal in wrestling history. Like, I literally didn't know there was a Battle Royal until Gunther said it out of his mouth. And I was like, a Battle Royal? So, okay. The last four in this match was Matt Riddle, Ricochet, Bronson Reed, and Mustafa Ali. So I was already rolling my eyes. Because Matt Riddle was in this match, Apollo Crews was in this match, Johnny Gargano was in this match. There's some other people in here too, but just what a field, Ricochet and Bronson Reed, they got into it and they were doing their thing. Riddle got distracted by Imperium and ended up getting eliminated. Bronson Reed ends up picking up Ricochet on his shoulders. Mustafa Ali drop kicks them both. They go over the top rope. And Mustafa Ali is the number one contender for the Intercontinental Championship. I just instantaneously rolled my eyes and said, this is a fucking joke. What a joke. This guy who wins one match in like 8 months and he's the number one contender for the Intercontinental title. This is AEW level booking. All right. He's won all of 2 fucking matches since I don't even know if he's a babyface or a heel right now, to be quite honest. It's a joke. I don't give a shit about it. Oh, it's only happening because it's in Saudi Arabia. He's not a fucking Arab. He's Pakistani. Well, he's a Muslim. So what? He's Pakistani. It's like, it's crazy. I mean, they did the same shit with Zelina Vega, didn't they? Zelina Vega wins, just becomes number one contender out of nowhere, has won no matches. So it's like, is Mustafa Ali going to come out there in a Saudi Arabian flag, even though he's not Saudi? Like Zelina Vega came out there with the Puerto Rican flag and everything. Like, she's from fucking New York. Like, look, I get it. She's descendant from Puerto Ricans. But she's not from the island. Okay? That's just, I'm just speaking facts, truths, This dude is not from Saudi Arabia. Like, but the only other option was for you to have it to be Mansoor, who is from Saudi Arabia, but he's currently some kind of homo male model. I don't know. I don't know. I don't get it. Mustafa Ali versus Gunther is not even a match fit for Raw. It's fit to main event WWF Superstars in 1996. This match stupid. And whoever booked this is a fucking idiot. There's just no way. This is not the way to present Gunther. Look, I guess the only thing is they want to have him fight a legitimate opponent somewhere else. So let's not waste it on Night of Champions. Let's just get him on the card. Which is my only thing that I could think of, is that they're probably just saying, look, let's just get him on the card. We'll figure the rest out later. But, Mustafa Ali, that's painful, bro. What a pain. What a pain in the ass. Later, Mustafa Ali calls Alpha Academy a bunch of losers, saying he used to be losers like them until he uh, he became more positive. Then him and Gunther have a conversation where Gunther congratulated him and then say he also feels bad for him because he's got to fly halfway across the world to have the match of his life and lose. Ali says that Gunther is going to fly halfway across the world and lose the Intercontinental Championship. Then claimed that he's going to humiliate Gunther. I was like, Negro, please. Negro, please. Come on. Next, Becky Lynch. She cut a promo. She starts talking about how she manned up and asked for help when damage control was too much. Two legends stepped up for her. Lita was great, but her judgment was very cloudy because she didn't see that Trish Stratus wasn't great and that Trish Stratus was going to backstab her. So she says she thanks Trish. Says she does say, I thank you, Trish, for turning the light on that's been off for many months. Thank you for giving all the badness in my head a face, a name, and a target. I thought that was great. That was a great line right there. And she continued to go on by saying she's going to show Trish Stratus how thankful she is at Night of Champions. This was a pretty damn good promo from Becky Lynch. Very solid, full of passion. She sounds like she's speaking from the heart, like she means what she says. And even though it comes across like a staged wrestling promo, it still feels legitimately pretty good. So this was the best thing that has taken place in this feud so far. Legit, the best thing that has been in this feud so far is Becky Lynch cutting a promo. So this ought to be fun. Rhea Ripley is backstage watching Becky Lynch and Trish, and she's kind of offended about this Becky Lynch Trish Stratus conversation when she's asked about Natalya. Then somehow, for some reason, she's confronted with Natalya, just, boobs all in her chin. At this point, Natalya says that Rhea Ripley deserves all the respect that she gets, but it's respect that she doesn't give to her opponents. So Rhea says, look, this ain't about respect. This is about you trying to boost your career. But if you get in my way again, I'm not going to boost your career. I'm going to end it. And I was like, yeah, please do that. If TJ ain't man enough to knock this broad up so she can go away for a little while, then maybe Rhea is. Maybe Rhea can handle it. I don't know anymore, I'm grasping at straw. Somebody's got to be able to do it. Somebody's got to be able to send Natalya home. Shit. We need her to go bye-bye. Not go away, not to leave, not to exit. I'm saying go bye-bye. We need small children waving at her, and she smiles and waves back, and we never see her again. They did a promo segment for JD McDonough, where he talked about believing in fairness and believing in the process, then saw people get opportunities ahead of him, and says that he is performing in front of an audience of fools. Then this is a really good vignette, and it's a very different character. Like, this character on Monday Night Raw is not that crazy surgeon guy that they was doing in NXT. Like, I don't know what that was. But this is felt more like him. There's it's a smaller guy, chip on his shoulder. He's all about his talent and what he can do. He got into a beef with Dolph Ziggler in the Battle Royal, so I guess that's his first match they're going to set up next week. Okay. Fine. Whatever. He's leaving the building, and Kathy Kelly chased him down. And he says that he came to Raw to make a statement, and that statement is that you never bet against the Ace. At one point, Finn Balor is lurking over him like a dark cloud, just like standing up in the rafters in a place that he has no business being. Like, there's no reason for you to be up there, ever. And he's just up there staring down at JD McDonough, like, dun, dun, dun. I'm like, why couldn't they do this in a more natural way? Like, maybe Finn Balor run into him in the parking lot or something like that. Why it had to be he's lurking in the dark? Well, not exactly in the dark, but he's like in the rafters watching him from the, like, what is this? There has been a lot of internet rumors that JD McDonough is going to be added to Judgment Day. perhaps as a tag team partner for Finn Balor. The latter part, I'm not necessarily a fan of. I don't think Finn Balor needs a tag team partner, but it's a good way to get JD McDonough started. And if he's going to be one of these guys who is, got a chip on his shoulder and feels like he deserves more out of the business, then he kind of fits Judgment Day. I just don't like that psychotic surgeon thing that he was doing. That shit didn't look fun, and it made him kind of boring and stupid. But this seems to actually work for him and his character. It's still kind of crazy, but it's not as cool as his NXT UK persona, which was a little bit more upscale. But this one is kind of still dark and brooding, but it's the perpetually looked over guy, and he's bitter about it. And I like that. So this works. Him hanging out with Finn Balor, that works too. Especially if it's going to lead to them feuding, which I know is inevitable when it comes to the two of them. Induced Share. They popped up on Raw. They beat up some Jabberillos. Then Jinder Mahal swore that Monday Night Raw was going to belong to Induced Share. And I rolled my eyes because I knew that it wasn't true. Jinder is hindered with Induced Share. But it's not quite. For some reason, he felt the need to say this twice. He said it into the live mic and then got on commentary and said it again. We run Monday Night Raw. I'm like, okay, I believed you the first time, Jinder. Thank you. Thank you. Come again. Cody Rhodes cut a promo. Very interesting promo here. Says that Greensboro, North Carolina was a place of mutual respect. The home of the first Starrcade. Unfortunately, there is no mutual respect between him and Brock Lesnar. Then he told a story about the scorpion and the frog. About the scorpion stinging the frog while they're in the middle of the river and they both drowned. Because it's in the scorpion's nature to do so. So you can't expect things to change their nature. They are what they are. That's the lesson you're supposed to learn from this. A good friend of the show, even though I don't know if he listens or not, Meltzer says what? He posted the parable and where it came from and everything. Apparently it's some kind of communist fable that they came up with in Russia. But I think ultimately the better story is for it to be a parallel between Cody and Brock, where, people want to know why Brock did what he did to Cody. Cody keeps talking about why did Brock do what he did, when Cody is now saying it's just in Brock's nature to do this. Stop asking the question about why Brock attacked me the first time. He did it because it's what Brock Lesnar does. He did it because Brock gonna Brock, and Brock never stops Brocking until Brock's heart stops, right? So that's the answer to your question. Why Brock? Why do you do such horrible things to the American Nightmare? It's because he does what he does. A scorpion is a scorpion. Brock Lesnar is Brock Lesnar. A equals A. It only makes sense. So that's a really good explanation for why things occurred on that fateful April night. So from there, he starts talking about Brock Lesnar and how Brock is better than 99% of the roster. So it's not the part-time schedule. It's not the politicking. It's nothing like that. He's just better than everybody. That's why he's been dominant for so long. But at Backlash, he was not better than Cody Rhodes. And people are chanting and going crazy and stuff. He says that this whole ordeal is about who's the next big thing on Monday Night Raw. And the next big thing, that's what they used to call Brock. But what happens when they stop calling you the next big thing and they just start saying next? It says that Brock Lesnar is no longer the next big thing. That Cody Rhodes is the big thing here on Monday Night Raw. I was like, this is a ballsy promo and a completely not humble promo either. To say I'm the man around here, essentially. To plant your flag. It's like, woof. and not be in the title picture. Just say, look, I'm the man. Fuck it. All right. Everybody's here to see me. I'm the one selling tickets. Like, I'm the guy. All right. Like that's a pretty ballsy move. I like it though. I don't dislike ballsy. I like this. It's a pretty good promo. Cody does a really good job with his monologues usually. So these are very solid. I look forward to the match with Brock too. I really do. They seem to have a really good one at Backlash. This one could possibly be better. All right. So last segment of Mrs. Irrelevant. Well, actually, there's two more segments. My bad. This segment is pretty stupid though. Zoe Stark. Okay, so she's wearing a two-tone jacket, which somebody on Twitter says she looks like a Nintendo Switch, which is hilarious. I've never seen one in person before, so I don't know. But they got her in the makeup chair. I see the makeup. I see it. They got her in that makeup chair. And they sit your ass right here. We're going to slather some of this ink on you. Get some paint upon you. So she's backstage and she's bothering Nikki Cross, who is in her own little world. I don't know. And she's calling Nikki Cross a freak and, you know, just bullying her, being generally disagreeable and disreputable. Then Candice LeRae just pops up out of nowhere like, hey, leave my family alone. And Zoe Stark's like, what? And then she was like, well, we can fight next week. How about that? And Zoe Stark was like, okay, sure. And then she walked off. And I'm like, when did Candice LeRae and Nikki Cross become family? I know that they had that sentimental moment where, you know, Nikki said all of her family was gone, but how did these two, when did they, do I really care? No. So never mind. Just get ready for all the work rate marks to wet the bed in excitement for Zoe Stark versus Candice LeRae. And I'm just going to go, I don't know, shave a squash or something like that. Go do something productive with my life. All right, so the final segment was Apollo Crews. Apollo Crews is back again, and he says that he earned his way back to the main roster, and that he did so while being a man that his children can be proud of, and that it is his time again, which feels like it's a running gag. This feels like Wile E. Coyote going to Acme one more time. Like, if you keep selling me defective products, it's oh my goodness. Oh, this is dreadful. Look, I like Apollo Crews. Generally, I do. Hopefully, he gets a nice little vehicle, and he can actually be useful on the main roster. If not, I don't see what all this is about. When it comes to the vignette for him and JD McDonough, I was definitely confused that they had these vignettes after they lost in the Battle Royal instead of putting it in before they lost in the Battle Royal and actually getting people to think that these people might be getting pushed and that they could be potential winners. You know, by showing the McDonough promo and the Apollo Crews promo after they already lost, it's like, okay, well, you've already seen them. You know, well, Apollo Crews you've already seen because he's been on TV for years already. But JD McDonough especially should have been saved for when you were going to do the Battle Royal and teased him as being sort of a favorite, you know. And he could have even mentioned, you know, the Intercontinental Championship and winning the title in his first official singles match or whatever as a way of righting the wrongs of people overlooking him his entire career. Okay, so that's it for Monday Night Raw. Jeez Louise, what a boring show. The vignettes were great. The Seth Rollins promos were great. No match really caught my eye because almost none of them were built up in any meaningful way. Most of the matches, you were pretty sure you knew who was going to win. The crowd was sleepy the entire night, which you can't really blame them. I mean, look at the matches that they presented. Look at the performances they presented. I actually miss skits on a wrestling show. I miss when people used to do skits, man. We don't get skits anymore. You know, it's almost always we got time to feel, put in more wrestling. You know, when you need to feel some time, more wrestling, more and more wrestling. And that's very frustrating, you know, because you could actually be doing some character stuff rather than elongating a Dominic Mysterio versus Xavier Woods match, which we very much don't need, especially since we just had that match not too long ago. All right. Thank you all for your time. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.